good. All right. Okay, we will call the June 12th, 2023 Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Take a roll call. Supervisor Day.
Here.
Supervisor Ayers.
Here.
Supervisor Lyons.
Here.
Supervisor McDaniel is here. Supervisor Lewis is absent. We will now have a prayer for the board followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Those attending are not required to participate, but if you'd like to join us, please stand.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of the community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that might affect us and all those around us. Continue to remind us that what we do here today is for the benefits of all those in the community. We ask these things in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will hold citizen comments near the beginning of the meeting, and we'll do our best to take citizen comments remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. To join by telephone, you may dial into the number listed on the county website. The webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Board of Supervisors YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature, and you can press the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you're calling in by telephone. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
No, sir.
All right, I believe we have a recognition. We have a resolution honoring John Moore upon his retirement of 20 years service. Mr. Lyon?
A resolution expressing the appreciation of the Board of Supervisors of Rockbridge County to John L. Moore, collection agent, on the occasion of his retirement after 20 years of service. Whereas John L. Moore began his full-time employment on April 16, 2003 as a collection attendant. Whereas Mr. Moore has served the solid waste and recycling department for more than 20 years. And whereas Mr. Moore was a very dedicated and loyal employee, performing his duties in a most professional manner, consistently providing excellent service to the citizens of Rockbridge County and his co-workers, who he was always willing to assist. And whereas Mr. Moore's duties included operating and maintaining the Fairfield, Greenhouse Road, Sailings Mountain collection centers for many years, ensuring that they were in pristine and safe conditions for the residents. And whereas Mr. Moore was an integral part of opening the Fancy Hill Collection Center and the successful transition of the closing of Sailings Mountain Center and operating the new collection center in Natural Bridge Station. And whereas Mr. Moore used his knowledge of solid waste and collection operations to provide leadership and training to many new employees during his career. And whereas Mr. Moore was a good friend to all he encountered while in the service of Rockbridge County. And whereas Mr. Moore has chosen to retire after many years of public service. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Rockbridge County, Virginia does hereby express deep appreciation to John Moore for his 20 years of dedicated service to the citizens and employees of Rockbridge County, and offer sincere congratulations and best wishes for a happy and rewarding retirement. Now also be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors presents this resolution of appreciation to Mr. Moore to serve as a reminder that although he is retiring, he will always be remembered as a kind, considerate, and loyal individual dedicated to both his position and family. Adopted this 12th day of June, 2023.
Mr. Moore was unable to be with us tonight, but he wanted to send his thanks to the board.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have citizen comments. At this time, we'll open citizen comments. Please address the board as a whole. If you have a comment, state your name, magisterial district, and limit your comments no more than 3 minutes. Is anyone signed up wishing to address the board?
Yes, sir. We have a Ms. Catherine Siegel.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Siegel. I live at 25 Henry Hill Drive in South River District. Nice to see you, sir. I'm here because unbeknownst to me, I only found out Thursday, a winery that has opened near us that was given a special exception permit for zoning after lengthy interactions with our neighbors and with the people who own the winery in November of 21. Included a provision that there be no outside amplified music, that all music be enclosed. They are now, after having 3 times been complained about, twice to Mr. Sladen's office and myself once to to the sheriff, asking for outdoor entertainment event permits, which basically circumnavigate what was agreed to by the neighbors to keep these folks from having amplified music. I live 3/4 of a mile as the crow flies from these folks. I live right across their property. I face Susan Showalter's farm, and right beyond that is their pavilion, where beyond that, they have an open wagon that they've been using for amplifying music. I was outside on May 27th in my garden, minding my own business, peacefully tending, and I hear very plainly audible music with lyrics that were quite discernible and the notes were quite clear. I don't think, if I'm 3/4 of a mile, very close to it, away from these folks, that I should be hearing that music on my property for anything, whether it's audible, amplified or non-amplified, but I should not be hearing that. My understanding is that they are not allowed to have that music under regular noise regulations for the county, and that's why they need this special permit. And my request to you is to not grant these permits until others have weighed in on it. No one knows about this yet. As I said, just found out Thursday. I have 2 neighbors from whom I can speak. One is named Zach Felix, and the other is Bruce Lewis. They both live in my neighborhood. And I believe there are 2 other neighbors who live much closer than I do. I can't speak for them, but I know they would be interested in letting you know that this has been absolutely spoken to with these people, that we were promised that they would put up buffers and that would never cause any problems and so on and so forth. And that seems to be just going right out the window. They have asked for a succession of 13 or 14 days this summer upon which to play their music. And they call it a music festival. It's one musical singer with usually a singular instrument and speakers. And as I said, they have a wine pavilion under which I think an acoustic instrument would never be heard, but the people in the pavilion could hear it. But they put this big, speaker system way down the meadow, far away from where the people are that can hear it. So I'm going to ask you to take a good look at this and please make some restrictions. Please do not allow these people to have what they want. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Siegel. Anyone else signed up?
No, sir.
Is there anyone online wishing to address the board?
No, sir.
All right, is there anyone in attendance that didn't have the opportunity to sign up wishing to address the board? If you come forward, state your name, magisterial district.
I am actually Tara Orball. I'm the general manager at Echo Odesso Vineyard. And we actually were given a visit we have not met, sorry, Tara. We have not met personally, and I do know that she did come by the vineyard and speak with Sierra Weatherly, the owner, during that concert that she's speaking of on Memorial Day weekend. It was about 5 p.m. ish. And we do not provide the musicians speakers. It's something that they just bring themselves. There is a very small John Deere hay wagon that we've kind of just turned, that's just right outside of the pavilion. If that's the issue, we'll be more than happy to just bring them right inside the flat of the pavilion. If you've ever been there, it's not excruciatingly loud. And I did just put a decibel monitor on my phone. So I'll be happy to any of these future events to go across the street and just monitor it just myself, but I don't think it's unreasonably unaudible, and it is between 3 and 6 PM. So I just don't think it's necessarily disturbing the peace. But I'll be happy to have you all out if you want to take a look for yourself. I believe a couple of you have been, but that'll be it.
Thank you, Ms.
Sure.
Anyone else? All right, at this point, we will cease with citizen comments. We have the May 22nd, 2023 work session and regular meeting minutes. Has everyone had opportunity to review those? Or any questions, concerns, comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
And a second? All right. Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. Next up, we have consideration of the county financial package. Mr. Harrison?
Yes, we're requesting additional appropriations of $292,853. The majority of that is for the new sheriff vehicles that came in earlier than July 1. So their 2024 budget will be reduced by those vehicles, but the dealers were wanting it came in sooner and they were wanting their money yesterday. The total expenditures for May amounts to $976,940.49. For the general fund, total as of May 31st, our total revenues is $50,459,033. Total expenditures $47,759,824. So we're up about 2.7 million. 92% of the year has passed. Our sales tax is at $3,692,206, or 99.8% of the budget estimate. Our mills tax is at $2,444,143. We're up at 102% of the budget. Our discretionary lodging tax is at $1,336,803, or 91.2%. And our missions tax is at right on track, $186,474 and 93%, or 93% for the year.
Any
And that's all I
questions
have.
for Mr. Harrison? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the county's appropriation resolution?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have consideration of outdoor event application for balloons over Rockbridge. I believe Mr. Suter, you're up for this?
Yes, and I'm, per the code, just so you all know, typically, Mr. Sladen is presenting these, but per the code, it's under my office, so we're trying to lighten his load a little bit. This is one thing that I could do to help him. So you'll start seeing these coming from me. So per Article 2, Section 4-16 through 25 of the county code, Balloons Over Rockbridge has submitted an outdoor events application for a 2-day hot air balloon and music festival, offering piloted balloon rides, a 5K run, walk, food, craft vendors, live local music, and children's activities for the enjoyment of the community, to help raise funds for the awareness of local charities and organizations. It is scheduled for July 1st and 2nd on Oak Hill property at Virginia Horse Center. The Oak Hill portion of the property is 197 acres, and they have followed the same application process for several years since moving the event from the VMI parade ground to the Virginia Horse Center. Plan for adequate parking facilities, crowd control, traffic control in and around the event area has been approved by Sheriff Funkhauser, and a plan for adequate fire protection has been approved by Chief Ramsey, County Fire Chief. And Robert Forsman is here with us to present as needed or answer any questions you might have. And I will tell you, we didn't put all the detail into this one. They had a tremendous amount of detail on the ICS plans, instant command plans and that type of thing. But if you want to see that, we can certainly provide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of board. As Mr. Suter said, Balloons Over Rockbridge is in its 6th year with the current board of directors, some of whom are behind me. Our festival is free to anybody that wants to attend. We do not charge for parking. The sponsors, flight fees, and the vendors, last year, based on their giving, we were able to generate and give back to the community over $29,000 to a variety of charities. This year, our charities are as follows. Camp Light, which is a summer day program for individuals with special needs and at-risk youth. The mission is to show kids with special needs and circumstances that life is only limited by their imagination, and to give them new tools and skills along with love and support to inspire them to become anything they can dream. Second is the Arc of Rockbridge. It is a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing a variety of social opportunities, advocacy support, scholarships, and other services for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as their families. Their mission is to promote and perfect the human rights of these individuals and to actively support their inclusion and participation in the community. Also, New Freedom Farm is a nonprofit community farm located in Buchanan, Virginia. The farm exists to aid veterans and first responders with PTSD, substance abuse, traumatic brain injury, and other conditions by using the therapeutic activity of interacting with equines, farming, and peer-to-peer support. The end goal is to empower individuals and help them heal by realizing their efforts and contributions. Next, Street Ransom True Mission of Virginia is committed to providing long-term residential aftercare to minors rescued from human trafficking here on the East Coast of the United States. And lastly, the Mary Carroll Moore Scholarship. Mary Carroll was a member of our board. She was a longtime educator in the city of Buena Vista. Every year we give a scholarship to a student who is going to go into the field of education. A little bit about this year's event. Right now we have 21 pilots that are scheduled to be here. That includes 6 new pilots. Also, during our event, one of the pilots will be displaying one of his brand new balloons called Tiny the Fire Dog, which is an honor to all the first responders. Also, we have 13 food vendors, and this was as of last Friday. We have 13 food vendors, 15 craft merchandise vendors, 4 nonprofits, and 1 sponsor. Additionally, Faith Baptist Church from Fincastle has agreed to help us with parking. They are going to provide us with enough staff to handle the parking both days of the event. With that, if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions from Mr. Gordon?
Just comment and a question. I spent 2 days out there last summer, very well run event. I think the only concern that, and it always happens every year, is that with some of the local farmers, and I don't know that there's anything we can do about that, but other than make sure we get word out. So with the balloons, you can make them go up, but I'm not sure you can control where they come down. So
No, sir, you can't. And we have worked with some of our local farmers to make sure that the red zones, as they are referred to, are updated before every flight each morning, each evening. The pilots are given the red zones. They're clearly marked on a map, they are told, please try to stay away from these red zones. Only land there if it's an emergency. And in the past, we've had some situations, but we were able to call the sheriff's office and they very quickly responded and were able to help make sure there weren't any problems. So once again, we'll try to make sure they don't hit the red zones.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Forson. Appreciate the
Thank you.
presentation. Is there a motion to approve the application?
So moved. Second.
And a second. All right, Mr. Day?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have the consideration of outdoor event application for Echo Adesso outdoor music events. This is Mr. Suter as well.
Yes. And again, as you heard earlier, this is the second outdoor event application on the agenda tonight. I won't go over the codes, same code, but Echo Odessa Vineyards currently has a special exception permit to operate special events in the A2 district, approved by the board in November 2021. That permit covers activities not open to the public, such as weddings, reunions, et cetera, and provides for up to 52 events per year. And has limits on the number of persons, vehicles, times of the events, again, outdoor amplified music, in addition to some other limitations such as fireworks and open fires. The application in front of you tonight is for events other than those SEP permitted events. This outdoor events application is for a series of outdoor music events offered to the music at the pavilion from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Through the summer. A schedule is noted as included. I think there's a total of 11 events. And it is located at 340 Echo Adesso Lane, Borden Grant Trail, Fairfield. And a plan for adequate parking facilities, crowd control, traffic control in and around the event area has been approved by Sheriff Funkhauser, and the plan for fire protection has been approved by Chief Ramsey, the county's fire chief. And the application is in your package.
Thank you, Mr. Suter.
So,
Comments, discussion, questions?
Ms. Huffman, if this is granted, it can be revoked at any time?
It can be revoked if they fail to follow the conditions or requirements, which includes their own plan.
But can I review the 2021 agreement that we had, their special permit? Correct. In 2021, we granted a special, a venue, right? To operate as a venue, special event venue. And with that came along no amplified music. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is a part of the approval of a special exception permit for such events as weddings and reunions, and any music has to be indoors as part of that.
And the rationale would be that not to, as nice as the event is, not to inflict the neighbors with attending an event that they chose not to attend. Correct. I mean, that is the
The noise
purpose.
associated with the events is the reason for having certain restrictions.
So I guess I would wonder if, in fact, we did that in consideration of the neighbors, and there was considerable, because of how many people were surrounded this very nice, lovely venue, but lots of housing and lots of people close and could be impacted. And so that was one of the considerations we had. My feeling is that what if we grant this, what we're asking these neighbors to do is to attend a concert every Saturday from spring until fall. And as nice as that might be for some people, that wasn't their plan from 3 to 6 on Saturday. I'm very sensitive to to people having the quiet enjoyment of their property. And I would really love that if something could be worked out where they could figure out a way to do the music they wanted without involving their neighbors or asking their neighbors to attend. I just don't know how that works. And for me, I would love to see whatever that is be worked out with the neighbors, and maybe it can be worked out. But I feel that we had an agreement in 2021 and we asked not to have amplified music. And there was a reason. There was a reason for that. And so that is my very difficult. It's very hard. It's incredibly hard to make these decisions. But I feel that the public needs to trust us when we do these special permits and businesses come into different areas. They need to trust us that we've agreed on something and we're not going to in a year or two change it. And I feel like this does change the agreement we had in 2021. So that is my problem with what's being asked. I'm finished. That was my comment.
So the existing permit allows for music, just not amplified music?
Not outdoor music, amplified or otherwise.
Did you say it doesn't allow for any music outdoors?
Right.
I thought the condition was any amplified music had to be indoors, but I don't recall it saying you couldn't have acoustical music. I didn't think there was.
Do you remember that part of it?
Yes, so there's 12 conditions associated with the special exception permit for Echo Adesso. There's one condition that, quote, any amplified music must be within an enclosed structure. And to be clear, that's associated with the special exception permit.
Right.
And the difference between a special exception permit for amplified, but the difference between a special exception permit for wedding and events, reunions, and the process that we're currently going through was explained during the special exception process. And so they're two separate processes.
Right.
But
But-
the reason they're intermingled now is because we're talking about amplified music.
Right, but it didn't say there couldn't be any outside.
That's
music.
correct. I mean, yeah,
It just
it's the
can't be
amplified. So you can
amplified.
have acoustic music outside
Right.
during weddings. You obviously can
Right.
have a cello. You can have a, whatever you may have.
I think that's not amplified.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think the intent of the board was to restrict amplified music to the indoor facilities. And so
And in fact, with the outdoor music entertainment permit that we're dealing with now, it does not specify amplified music or non-amplified music. It's just music in general,
so
outdoor, not in a closed place.
So if they want to have any kind of music outdoor, they have to have an application.
The process that we're going through now,
Right.
because I will also add another condition. One of the 12 conditions states that it's not a quote, but the tasting room and vineyard tasting room have to be closed to the public. And the reason for that was several fold. During weddings and receptions, that they have to close the grounds to the general public. And part of that was the expectation of this outdoor event application, because it was discussed at the time, and the difference between the two. And it would be easier for us to enforce the amplified music or not amplified music, obviously, when it's closed to the public. Because you would know whether it's a wedding, reception, reunion, that the facility has to be closed to the public, or it's not, it's open to the public like we're talking about now. So I guess my point is they're two completely separate processes. It's not uncommon for someone to have a special exception and go for another county function.
So is it possible the application that's before us tonight could be modified to say you can have music, but it cannot be amplified?
And that would not be a zoning question. That would be essentially for the
But
county
you,
attorney.
you may, yes. You may impose a restriction and amend their application to provide that it not be amplified music.
Mr.
first page of it, down at the bottom, there is a place for special conditions.
Mr. Slade, no, don't go nowhere. Ms. Orbach, would you mind coming up? Please, I just have a question for you. When you have these events, because I believe you've already had a couple,
Yes.
how many, what's attendance?
Less than 100 people.
Okay.
And there is a difference. He did explain it well. Weddings have a tendency to go later into the evening. So we don't want anything certainly in the evenings bothering our locals. This would be just, of course, that time of day, 2 to 5 or 3 to 6, typically 3 to 6. So it would be generally just, I mean, like I said, if we could just reach something on a decibel level, similar as, you know, the other local breweries or wineries do, I would be more than happy to work with Mystical and see what, you know, I'll keep it below a certain level, just so we can have, you know, amplified, lightly amplified music. I don't mean a concert. There's nothing super crazy happening. We don't serve liquor or anything like that. We just, you know, have wine. So it's just a couple of hours on a Saturday afternoon, and it's not every weekend at all. It is a few throughout July, and then we kind of slow down because we do kind of bring things indoors throughout the fall.
But is your schedule, is it just for people visiting the winery, or is this schedule for weddings and events?
That is there's no weddings and events included in this whatsoever.
Okay,
This is just
so
a-
just for people visiting the winery on a Saturday afternoon,
Sure.
you have 100 people every Saturday?
Less than, not 100 people, not at all. Our pavilion only has 46 chairs.
So I'm the reason I ask is,
Certainly.
you know, if it's 40 people versus 400,
Sure.
400, I could understand maybe you need a little bit louder music
Right.
because it's talking. 40 people, maybe you don't. I mean,
Right.
but do you think for 40 people that you need to have amplified?
Well, it's the area that it's in. I mean, we have a couple of Adirondacks around our pavilion. Like I said, I'll be happy to get rid of the stage if the amplification is not necessarily because it's on the stage. It was just because it's a cute, quaint stage. We can happily bring them underneath the pavilion and it be even less amplified, but it's just really hard to have a singer sing without a microphone. We did have Steve Hoke there this past weekend. We did follow all, we were very compliant. No one was plugged into anything and they didn't use microphones or anything. And it was difficult a little bit for the people near the end of the pavilion just to not hear, but also strain every musician's voice to try to just make sure everyone could be heard to their capability. I'm fine getting rid of pedals and large amps and anything like that.
I mean, I think, you know, as Ms. Harris put it, the board's kind of in a difficult situation.
I
We want
totally
you to be able to, you know, have your events and satisfy your customers. But when we hear a neighbor 3/4 of a mile away complaining that they can hear, obviously it's too loud.
Yeah.
You know, so it's either carrying, you know, I'm not sure the terrain, it's either carrying or is amplified too high. So it's either you provide some sort of barrier to block the sound,
Right.
or you turn it down.
Of course,
I mean, so-
absolutely. Yes, and I have actually, I've spoken to several of the other neighbors of the Henry Hill neighborhood. And while they're been happening, and just ask, can you walk outside and let me know what you hear? And it's not the same. So, and we've actually had one of the Henry Hill residents play there a few weeks ago and had about 10 members of the neighborhood there joining them, and just grateful that we're here for them this close by. So I think it's just kind of a, we're not everybody's cup of tea, but like I said, I'm glad to put a decibel level to follow the county ordinances to make sure we're not, you know, above where we should be and within the time frame of it being early afternoon, early to late afternoon. But I don't think it's any really unreasonable, but I certainly want to, I'm not dismissing anything that Ms. Segal is saying. And I want to, like I said, I'll be happy to go over. I've got a decimal meter on my phone now with Sheriff Funkhauser recommended just to go over and check. And he did tell me the one person that to look out for, but I mean, the rest of them are very, you know, and we don't have him on our schedule at all. He's like, this is the one you need to look out for because he's going to play everything as loud as he possibly can. So we don't have him even listed on our schedule. So, I mean, I think with just a bit of, a microphone helps the singer out a lot. I'm fine without having it blaring. I think that there definitely has to be a little bit of a middle ground, since it is outdoors, but I think I'll be more than happy to comply with anything. I mean, we can definitely put buffers up, but it'll take a little bit for those trees to grow. So hopefully you can take that into consideration. And I wasn't aware of the buffer statement. I was not the general manager. There was somebody else previously there for a short period of time before myself. So I was not aware of this special event. I was not part of that. I was only recently informed of this special event permit. Because I wasn't involved in that one.
It's September of last year is the first discussion that we had.
Yeah, but not about the special events, but you're talking about the
Outdoor music.
The outdoor music. Yeah.
Application process.
So, I mean, the county's been asking for this for how long?
Well, we did speak about it in last September, and then we only had one concert left. So you did say, at this point, don't worry about it, because I was told that there was a complaint made in May, but I wasn't told of that complaint until September. And that's when you said it's for the season, since it's wrapped up, we'll just do it again next year. And that's why.
But this is a schedule that's been made. So
Correct.
you have made a schedule without a special, without that is a problem I have, is that you would actually print a schedule having been told in September
Sure.
that this was.
So to clarify, September, we did receive a complaint last year. I reached out to them, and again, it was discussed during the special exception permit, the difference between the special exception permit and the outdoor music event application and how they differ. With that being said, this Orball is correct. I think there was one or two scheduled, but the time frame of their schedule of last year, y'all could not have. They were already scheduled, and there was not even a meeting between the first when we were told about it and when it was happening. With that being said, it's correct that I stated that, hey, don't worry about the don't worry about the outdoor event application this year, but let's ensure that we get off the right foot next year. Fast forward to next year, beginning of May, I got a complaint saying, hey, they're amplified music. I looked at the schedule. I reached back out to the owners and Tara.
Yeah.
Middle of May, and then followed back up with them, and we made the application.
And most of these were actually booked last year when they played before. So I didn't do this in spite of.
Okay.
Normally
That's
with
good to
bands,
know.
you have to do it a year in advance if you want to get
Understood.
anybody.
That's good
decent.
clarification. Thank you.
From your stage to the property boundary, approximately how far is it, would you guess?
Oh, my goodness.
I can answer that.
Okay, thank you.
It's gonna take me a second. But
Or even the pavilion. I mean, I'm fine getting rid of the stage. The stage, which is kind of like a novelty.
Just an estimate, Chris. It doesn't have to be exact.
so if my O is not working on the keyboard.
If we could-
Chris, you just need GIS.
Yeah. All right, so the question was from the property line, to the pavilion to the property line.
Yeah.
Pavilion's approximately right here. To one property line, it's 750 feet. To another, to the road itself, it's about 2,500 feet.
The reason I asked that is, this could easily be something that you police yourself.
Yes, sir.
If you go to the property line
Of course.
and it's blaring,
Yes.
it's
of
too
course.
loud.
Which I have done.
Yeah.
Which I
So-
have done.
So, obviously if there's 40 or 50 people sitting within 50 feet,
Sure.
they can hear it. They don't need to be 2,500 feet away.
Of course.
So, I mean, I'm not sure if this is something that, you and the neighbors could not work out.
Certainly. I would be more than happy to do that.
Ms. Siegel, I saw you stand and I wasn't ignoring you, but did you have anything to add? Did you have anything to add?
A very natural amphitheater, and I have shows you the structure of what's going on, and it's where they're, this is my house, and their amplification is way back here, and it hits right up on the and back to me. And as I said, Bruce Lewis lives 400 feet above me. And he hears it crystal clear because we have the type of setup there. The sound waves go upward, and I am slightly upward of the property. Our problem that's really upset about is that we discussed all of these things very clearly with the weathermen. So they promised a lot of give backs that they did not have to do by law, but they promised us verbally. We have not put those into place. We have not found them to be trustworthy with their word, and that is a problem for me. I don't know Tara, she may be a very conscientious person, and this may be something she would never consider doing. But I know in our dealings with them as a group, it's myself, Lori, or Chris Wise. Bruce Lewis exactly to me, and then there was two other folks who sat down with them. And we've been really disappointed that they have not. In fact, they were told in September that they needed to have permits. On May 9th, they were complained about again this year, and then I was on May 27th, and they had applied, of course, supposedly put permits through, but not in a timely manner, and they went ahead and had amplified music anyway. When I went over to speak to Sierra, who was there, I said, she didn't recognize me, I was in my garden clothes. I said, Sierra, I can hear your music at my house, and she knows, she's been to my home. And she said, we'll turn it down. I said, no, you're not supposed to be having it at all. The music stayed on, it did not stop. That to me is bad faith, and I don't feel comfortable going through this. We went through hours with them, and Chris will say, he knows through a lot of this. We went through a very fair and honest and open and trusting process, and we do not feel that we have been given that trust back.
Of course, I was not a part of any of that at that time. I will apologize on their behalf, but yet again, I wasn't a part of it, but that doesn't make it an excuse. I'm happy to get rid of the stage, and then the amplified music would, I mean, to me, we're still kind of staying right within the Rockbridge County ordinance, but again, agreeing with the decibel level, or the level of, is this ridiculously loud versus not? I mean, I can just give you.
I mean, there is a decimal level that would not, acoustic clearly
Sure.
would be,
Sure.
would be allowable.
Of course.
Do you have any, would that be an issue with neighbors?
This weekend they had acoustic music, and no one in my neighborhood heard it. I was not there, and I checked in with Zach. I have the text and with Bruce Lewis and said, "You can listen. Let me know if you hear anything. And just keep an eye on it." And they said, "No, we didn't hear a thing." So we're not nasty neighbors. We're just folks who would like peace and quiet 3/4 of a mile.
I don't think it's unreasonable whatsoever at all. And I have personally reached out to other members that of the neighborhood that are just, about as equal distance as yourself. And they have the contrary.
Well, it doesn't matter if there are people that do, there are people that don't. So
Certainly,
let's
Sure.
The three of us are outdoor people. We are outdoor every Saturday and Sunday. It's our joy to be outdoors in our property. I'm a huge gardener, and I take care of native plants, all kinds of plants. That's my it's my peace and quiet.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Orbaugh. All right, board, go ahead, Ms.
Just
Slade.
one point of clarification. There's been a whole lot of discussion on decibel levels. The current Rockbridge County noise ordinance, nor the ordinance we're working under now, the amusement and entertainment, do not reference decibel levels.
Okay. Is there any comments from board, discussion? Recommendations?
can they figure it out?
It's my understanding that the last event they had, there was no complaints from anyone in Henry Hills or that area.
That I know of. Those are two people that are, positioned in that neighborhood that have heard it as consistently not hear any music in the Tuesday, only weekend. Thank you. Great.
Please.
Just for you to know who I am, I'm Katie Harlow. I'm actually the new director of events at Echo Odesso. And I am actually a part of Henry Hill. Sort of, not in the Henry Hill, like actual address, I'm on Board and Grant, but my lot was established originally as Henry Hill, part of that. And myself and many of the other neighbors, I think it comes down to a personal preference of the music that is being played and or heard across the street. And I understand and I agree that there could be some kind of understanding, a kind of a middle ground, depending on whether you're in close proximity. I know people that live across the street from Rockbridge Vineyards that can hear the music too, but it's kind of a choice of where we choose to live and what's around us, and trying to find accommodating, some accommodations with each other to try to figure out what's best. I guess I'm losing my train of.
Okay, we don't need to get into that. I appreciate your comments and we'll leave it at that. Yeah, some people like it, some people don't. We understand that and appreciate your comments. That's all. Any more? Board discussion?
Well, in my opinion, I think our intent was acoustical music. And I think we ought to limit it to acoustical music until the groups can get together and think of something better than just acoustical that they can all live with. And then they can come back to us and say, we'd like to allow amplified music at a certain level. I'm not a sound expert, but I know there are sound people out there that could probably come in and look at your pavilion and tell you where to put your speakers and where to point them so the music stays within your property. So until that is done, I would suggest we limit it to acoustical music only.
That's a motion.
I'll second that motion.
And the motion is to approve the permit with that condition.
With
Yes.
acoustical.
With the option of if they work things out that can make it work,
can
they can
request
come
an
back and we'll get them.
But the last event that they did have, they had amplified music.
Nope.
It was
No, they didn't.
acoustical.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, thank you, okay. All right.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve with acoustical music only.
Yes.
And we have a second. Any other discussion? All right, Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
And chair votes yes as well. I would offer up, as Mr. Lyons said, your neighbors, work it out to an acceptable decimal level, come back. We'll be more than happy to entertain. That makes all parties happy, okay?
Get an expert in there and they can probably solve your problems. It's probably well worth the expense.
Or your neighbors.
Okay. At this point, we're going to pause our regular meeting and go to the public hearings. First up, we have a public hearing on the VDOT 6-year plan.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Suter.
Of course, annually, the board and VDOT take public comments on the state secondary 6-year improvement plan prior to approval. On May 22nd, VDOT's Lexington Residency Administrator Susan Hammond, who's with us tonight, presented the board with the draft 2024 to 29 6-year plan. The draft plan was duly advertised for public hearing on June 12th, and to date, we've received no public or no comments on that plan. I did, however, receive a resident request on May the 30th to add Route 643 Saddle Ridge Road for consideration of inclusion. I added that road to the request list and remitted that to Ms. Hammond for future consideration. But the draft plan, as you saw it at your last meeting, is attached, and Ms. Hammond is here to answer any questions that you might have.
Ms. Hammond, I'm sorry we went over and delayed you a little bit. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Hammond? No. Okay. Is there anything you needed to add for tonight?
No, I don't have any other changes from what was presented in the work session with one. We were missing a route number on page 3 of 4 for this particular layout. The project that is on Fredericksburg Road, which is Route 623. It was missing the end termini. It runs from the intersection of Route 621 to 2.7 miles to the end of the hard surface, which is right in the vicinity of our Cars Creek area headquarters. So I just wanted to cap that project out correctly.
Okay.
That's the only thing, not really a change, but a clarification point.
Okay. Thank you so much. Any board discussion, questions?
Just a reminder to people that keep calling and wanting paved roads. Make sure you understand that if you don't have a certain traffic count, I think it's 50 per day, that your road's not going to get paved. So it doesn't, you can call us 100 times. And while we'd like to pave everybody's request, you got to have a minimum traffic count. So until you get that traffic count, your road will sit on a list. So hopefully that will either cut down on some of these calls or traffic will increase on some of these roads.
All right, at this time, we will open up the public hearing. Is anyone signed up wishing to address the board?
No, sir.
Anyone in attendance didn't have the ability to sign up wishing to address the board? Anyone online wishing to address the board?
No, sir.
All right, we will close the public hearing. Any other discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the 6-year plan?
So move.
And a second? All right, Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day? Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well. Thank you, Ms. Ham. Next up, we have the public hearing on the South River property lease agreement for Tony Bryant. Ms. Huffman?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the county acquired a number of properties on South River as part of a flood mitigation project following, was it Isabel in 2004? FEMA funds were obtained as grant funds to purchase these properties and demolish the buildings and maintain the properties as open space. Part of the policy that was established at that time was for adjoining property owners or former property owners to be able to lease back the parcels that they sold to the county under those FEMA grants. And so we have a few of those leases in effect. Tony Bryant is one of them. This, I believe, will be the 4th lease term if approved under this program. His property was formerly owned by the Hosteters, but it adjoined his residence property and they were not interested. So he rented back the piece. The rent is based on the assessed value times the tax rate at the time of the lease, which is now an annual rental of $9.15. The leases are for a 5-year period and would be subject to all of the same conditions that the county had imposed on the property when those properties were acquired. So the approval of the lease requires adoption of an ordinance following public hearing. The proposed ordinance is included as well as a copy of the proposed lease, which incorporates all of the conditions that are applicable to the property. And if acceptable to the board following public hearing and discussion, consider adoption of the proposed ordinance. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Bryant's not with us, is it? For any
He
addition?
is not.
Okay. Any board discussion, any questions of Ms. Huffman? All right, hearing none, we will open up the public hearing. Anyone signed up wishing to address the board?
No, sir.
Anyone present wishing to address the board? Anyone online wishing to address the board?
No, sir.
All right, at this point, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve? A second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have the public hearing on the Health and Human Services Facility Agreement. Mr. Suter.
Yes, sir. At the last regular meeting on May 22nd, the board reviewed the draft Health and Human Services Cost Share Agreement and accompanying ordinance and approved it for advertisement for public hearing. The agreement and ordinances have already been approved by Lexington and Buena Vista. The agreement or the ordinance was advertised duly, and I've included all the background in your board report. And I'm happy to go over it again if you would like, or answer any questions that you may have. But after advertisement to date, we've received no public comment.
Board have any questions or comments from Mr. Suter? All right, at this point, we will open up a public hearing. Is anyone signed up wishing to address the board?
No, sir.
Anyone in attendance wishing to address the board?
No, sir.
Anyone online?
No, sir.
All right, and we will close the public hearing. Any board discussion? If not, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance approving the agreement?
Yes.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons,
Yes.
Mr. Day, and Chair votes yes as well. All right, let's move back to Rockbridge Hotel versus County of Rockbridge settlement. Ms. Huffman.
Yes, sir. In the end of December 2020, the Natural Bridge Hotel and Conference Center LLC filed suit against the Board of Supervisors for correction of erroneous assessment of their property for the years 2017 through 2020 and requested a refund of up to $150,000. The petition was dismissed for filing against the Board of Supervisors rather than the County of Rockbridge. The following year, and they can only go back current plus 3 years. So then the following year, they filed for 2018 through 2021 with essentially the same claim. The alleged value for the hotel property for each year was $2.6 million. The property was assessed for $7,042,200 based on the 2017 general reassessment. So there was a significant difference in value. However, Natural Bridge Hotel's appraisal included values for the real estate owned by Stonewall Lodge Cottages LLC, which is across the road, and reflected certain property included in the assessed value that was actually furniture, fixtures, and equipment. All of that should have, or the FFE should have been reported as business personal property rather than being assessed as part of the real estate. So the county we had an independent appraisal conducted on this property. And the numbers, the recommended values are shown in a table in the report in your packet. The assessment of 7,042,200 for all 4 years, excuse me. And the revised assessments were 5,500,000, 4,200,000, and then for the last 2 years, 2,100,000. The tax rate for those individual years is applied to the difference, the change, yielding the refunded amounts with interest payable on those amounts in the next column. And so then the grand total of the refund amount would be 127,270.24 through the end of this month. The hope was to have the business personal property tax paid before issuing the refund. However, there have been some complications and additional information required by the Commissioner of Revenue to get that straightened out. And meanwhile, we've got interest accumulating on the refund. So I thought it best to bring it forward to you now. So the request is, the proposal is to submit an agreed order to the court for entry. The Commissioner of Revenue has concurred, and your action, if acceptable, would be to approve the settlement proposal and authorize the refund to the hotel in the total amount of 127,270.24. And
Does this have to be approved by the court?
it does.
So it's a contingent on court approval?
Yes, but I've never had an issue with a court approval on an agreed order.
What we would be approving or whatnot is just the proposal, the amount.
That's correct. The board has to authorize the payment. And it's kind of a chicken or egg thing. You could technically authorize it after the fact, but that seems sort of redundant if you have a court order directing it.
Any other questions?
How does the revised assessment from 2019 to 2020 go down 50%?
Well, excuse me. The assessments, the appraisals are more targeted valuations of property than mass appraisal. So there is a more direct correlation to the actual value of that property. In this case, the recommended, because this is an older property, much older than most things in the county, actually, the proper method of valuation is income. And income went down starting in 2022, and I'm sorry, in 2020. And I think that COVID had at least some impact on that. It may not have been everything, but it clearly went from fairly close valuation in 18 and 19, although decreasing, to a big drop for those 2 years. And I think the current assessment is not a whole lot more than this valuation. It is based on income, though, rather than the cost methodology used by the mass appraiser.
So are we okay for 22 and 23, the assessment?
We have not heard anything about getting any further challenge on it.
Okay.
Um,
Did the bridge or the hotel itself provide income statements to the reassessment team as they went around recently?
they did. They
Okay.
were requested and provided.
Because it's
for
my
this-
understanding, they may not have been provided at the last assessment, correct? Which
That's-
may have led to the misvaluation.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But we cannot locate where they were ever requested. The appraiser cannot locate anything to confirm that he actually requested the income and expenditure figures for the hotel in the 2017 general reassessment.
Had he done that, would there have been a difference in this?
Yes. If he had done that, and if the hotel had provided what was requested, they would likely have had a lower assessment to
Right.
begin with.
But had the hotel not provided it and it been requested, would there,
Then the county is entitled to make a reasonable assessment on its own. And it would be more defensive.
Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion to approve the settlement proposal?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
yes,
And Chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank
I know
you.
that's painful.
Best to talk about that off record. All right, next up, we have consideration to approve the Havens Creative LLC contract for graphic design and branding services. Mr. Harrison, are you taking this one?
Yes, I am. Thank you. In February, pretty much the entire month of February, requests for proposals were released, selecting or branding services, logos for the county. The county received 25 proposals. The evaluation team had narrowed that down to 3. Then further down to 2, and then after negotiations, selected Haven Creative. Attached is a resolution for your consideration. Just the cost is, that's my opinion, reasonable, $23,850.
I will note that this is in the budget, this current budget, and also Brandy Flint was central to this, obviously, and she wasn't able to be with us tonight. She had to take her mom for medical appointment.
Also, there was a committee approach to this with Ms. Flint, myself, Mr. Lewis, although I don't think Mr. Lewis attended majority of the meetings. Ms. Clark from Tourism and Mr. Ramsey, Chief Ramsey. And during our evaluation process, I mean, I forgot if you said, Mr. Harrison, but I think it was 25, 27 respondents. We went through each one. And I mean, it was, a lot of them were probably 70 to 100 pages of information they provided back, so it was quite the ordeal to go through to navigate. But we, through our procurement department here, we were given a list of certain things to look for and certain things to grade on. And in the end, there were 3 that sort of stood out for what we thought would benefit the county and their experience level with other municipalities and their cost. And then each of those three were brought in for an interview in person. And I will say that Haven knocked it out of the ballpark. I mean, they did an excellent job with their presentation. They were answering questions before we could ask, that, and they were, I think their record of working with other municipalities will serve us well. And I think it will serve us well because they have experience and they can help us to know what we don't know. So
Nice.
I would, if there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Yes.
Second,
Second.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes as well. Next up, we have a couple of appointments. Mountain Gateway Community College Board of Directors, an unexpired term set to expire June 30th, 2025. We do have an applicant. Is there a motion to,
I move to approve Jason Coleman.
all right, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Let's see here. Let's go to the Rockbridge Regional Communications Center Management Board, the 911. These are 2 one-year terms that expire June 30th of 2024. Both existing members are willing to continue to serve. Is there a motion to approve reappointment of those 2?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right. That would be Mr. Cochran and Mr. Taylor. All right, Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mr. Lyon,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes as well. Then we have the Blue Ridge Criminal Justice Board, 2 two-year terms that expire June 30th of 2025. The existing appointees, Mr. Suter and Mr. Moon, are both willing to be reappointed. No other applications. Is there a motion to reappoint those 2?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Mr. Day, Ms. Ayers,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes as well. Coming back to the RARO Board of Directors, there's a 2 4-year terms that will expire on June 30th, 2027. Let's see here, Mr. Jones, who's willing to continue to serve for the South River District. Is there a motion to reappoint him?
So moved.
And a second?
Second?
Okay. For that one, all right, Mr. Day,
Yes.
Ms. Ayers.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well. For the other seat, the existing member is not wanting to be reappointed. And we do have an application, but I understand you would like to talk with the RARO board before.
Just the courtesy to have the board, discuss. And then, and also it's in Mr. Lewis's district and the opportunity for Mr. Lewis to be here.
So we'll save that one for our next meeting. Will you have opportunity to speak with them?
Absolutely. We'll
Okay.
take care of it. Mhm.
So we will save that one for next meeting. Next up, we have the monthly staff reports. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those? Any questions, concerns, comments?
Move to accept.
All right, and a second? All right. Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Day? Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes as well. Board comments. Anything for the good of the cause, Mr. Day?
Not a comment, but a question. Do you know how many properties that the county owns up in the flood area of South River?
Think you might.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
No.
Chris might, I don't.
It's approximately 20, something like that. We acquired all of them after Isabel, except for one property we acquired prior.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you were asking about South River Flood Mitigation Project. I do have a spreadsheet of those. Would you like me to send it to you?
If it's not any trouble,
It's not any
Right.
trouble.
thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Day? Ms. Ayers?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a little report on Rara, since you know how much I love to talk about Rara. Rara held its first summer adventures program last week where they had kayaking. This is a 4-day instructional program focused on safety, techniques, and knowledge to head out on the water. The program partnered with 2 local businesses, Journey Outdoors and Maury River Smallmouth. Each day, the participants met at different parts of the county. The first day was Lake Robertson. Day 2 was Ben Salem Wayside. Day 3 was Glenmary Park Pool. And day 4 was a float trip from Beans Bottom to Jordan's Point Park. It was a huge success. With that, Rora's opened registration for its hiking adventures, another new program to be held from July 10th through the 13th. And it will be a similar format as the kayaking program. Adult pickleball open court is still underway at Maury River on Mondays and Wednesdays, and Rivermont School on Wednesdays. Adult co-ed softball league, group 12 teams. I think it's time for a supervisors softball league. Games have been played at Brubaker and Glenmary Park. And all-star baseball season among us. We have 3 teams this year. The minors tournament is one to bring attention to, as Rara will be hosting the district tournament beginning June 6/24 at Fox Field. Let's see. And also our fall preliminary numbers. We've already started. We're already way up in our fall numbers. So very excited. All right.
Great. Anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Mr. Lyon, do you have any-
Solid Waste Committee met and we're having some problems with bears and we're gonna take care of those problems by removing those canisters. And other than that, everything is good.
I've got an email drafted on that. I just hadn't sent it yet.
Anything you want to add, Mr. Sue?
No, I'd like to say we had the second annual staff recreation day at Lake Robertson, Saturday. It was fairly well attended and had a great time. And I just want to thank all the staff that helped put that on. Heidi Hoke organized everything. Carrie helped her and then everybody pitched in. I'm gonna miss somebody that, had ladies from the jail helping and it was a nice, fun event.
Sorry, I wasn't there. It was my anniversary.
Huffman, did you have anything for the board?
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next meeting will be Monday, June the 26th. And just in case anybody is interested, we will be skipping our July 10th meeting. Just notice for that now. We'll only have one meeting in July. If there's nothing else. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Ayers?
Yes.
Mr. Day?